So here's the thing about running an interstellar academy for gifted species. You spend approximately 90% of your time filling out safety protocols, dietary requirement forms, and atmospheric composition charts. The other 10%, you spend that praying to whatever gods your species worships that nothing goes catastrophically wrong. My name is Velrin Quask, and I am the Vice Administrator of Cultural Integration at the Stellaris Prime Academy, which is a fancy way of saying I am the poor soul who has to explain to visiting species why they cannot eat the furniture, why gravity adjustments take 3 business days, and why no, absolutely not, you cannot bring your carnivorous pet to campus. Except when someone does exactly that. It was a Tuesday, or at least what we call Tuesday in the Galactic Standard Calendar, the kind of morning where the twin suns were just cresting over the biodomes, and I was enjoying a perfectly adequate cup of thermal brew at my desk. My assistant, a jittery Flixian named Torque, burst through my office door with all 4 of his eye stalks extended in what I'd learned to recognize as pure panic. Sir, we have a situation. Torque's voice hit that pitch that made my auditory sensors throb. I took another sip of my drink, slow, deliberate. Torque, we always have a situation. Is the methane breather in Building 7 complaining about the oxygen again? No, sir, the holding pen. Sector 12. Something got out. My beverage suddenly tasted like regret. Define something. A Krythian Razorback from Professor Hylix's xenobiology demonstration. It chewed through the quantum containment field. I was on my feet before my brain caught up. Krythian Razorbacks were not just dangerous. They were apex predators from a death world where the plants ate herbivores for breakfast and the herbivores fought back with acid spit. A fully grown Razorback could tear through reinforced titanium like it was tissue paper, and now one was loose in a school filled with soft, squishy students from 70 different species. Perfect. Just perfect. Lockdown protocol. I snapped, already moving toward the door. Now. Already initiated, sir. But Torque's eye stalks drooped. There is a problem. Of course there was a problem. There is always a problem. The creature has taken up residence in classroom 7B, and there is a student still inside. My blood, which runs a comfortable shade of purple, probably turned some interesting colors. What species? Please tell me it is one of the armored ones. Please tell me it is a Kronak with their shell plating. Human, sir. I stopped walking. A human. Yes, sir. The exchange student. Marcus Dane. Now, I should explain something about humans. When the galactic community first made contact with Earth, we were concerned. See, humans come from what we politely classify as a Category 4 death world, the kind of planet where literally everything is trying to kill you at all times. The weather, the animals, the microscopic organisms, even some of the plants. Humans evolved by basically telling the universe to go ahead and try harder. They also have this bizarre tendency to pack bond with anything. Literally anything. There are documented cases of humans adopting creatures that, by all logical standards, should eat them. They look at something with teeth the size of their forearms and think, yes, this could be a friend. It is horrifying and fascinating in equal measure, but surely even a human would have the good sense to evacuate when a 300-kilogram killing machine decided to squat in their classroom, right? I sprinted toward Sector 7, Torque scrambling to keep up on his 6 legs. The hallways were empty, emergency lights pulsing their warning rhythm. Students and faculty had evacuated to the safe zones. Smart people. People with survival instincts. We reached classroom 7B, and I could see through the observation window what was happening inside. The Razorback was magnificent, in the way that a natural disaster is magnificent. All rippling muscle, midnight blue scales, and enough teeth to stock a dental museum. It had indeed claimed the classroom as territory, sprawled across what looked like half the student desks. Its tail, lined with serrated bone ridges, hung off the edge, twitching occasionally. And there at the front of the room, sitting at his desk like this was a completely normal day, was Marcus Dane. The human looked about 20 in Earth years, which translated to young adult in their species. Brown hair that stuck up in several directions, wearing what I'd learned was called a hoodie and jeans. He had a datapad in front of him and appeared to be taking notes. What in the name of the first compact is he doing? I hissed. Torque pressed closer to the window. Is he Is he ignoring it? The Razorback's head lifted, those predatory eyes, yellow with vertical slits, fixed on the human. I held my breath. This was it. This was where I would have to file the incident report that ended my career. Human exchange student consumed by prehistoric nightmare beast. Cause? Inexplicable stupidity. Marcus glanced up from his datapad. He looked at the Razorback. The Razorback looked at him, and the human went back to his notes. What, I said very quietly, is happening right now? The Razorback, clearly confused by this response, made a sound that was half growl, half confused chirp. It was the noise of a predator whose prey was not following the standard panic flea die routine. Marcus sighed, audibly. We could hear it through the door. Dude, I'm trying to study for the quantum mechanics exam. Can you, be scary somewhere else? Torque made a choking sound. Did the human just tell the Razorback to be quiet? He did, I confirmed, feeling my grip on reality loosening. He absolutely did. The Razorback, apparently deciding to test this strange creature, took a step forward. Its claws clicked on the metal floor. Each foot was the size of a dinner plate. It lowered its head, displaying rows of teeth that had evolved specifically to crack through armored prey. Marcus looked up again. Look, I get it. You're big. You're scary. You probably eat things that would give me nightmares. But I have 5 chapters to review, and this exam is 20% of my grade. So, unless you are planning to help me with wave function collapse, maybe you could chill? The Predator paused. Actually paused, as if trying to process whether this small soft thing was incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Probably both, if I was being honest. Should we intervene? Torque whispered. We have the stun nets. The containment team is standing by. I watched as the Razorback took another step closer to Marcus's desk. The human still had not moved, had not even tensed. He just sat there, one hand propping up his head, the other scrolling through his notes. Wait, I said, because here's what nobody tells you about being an administrator. Sometimes the worst thing you can do is act when you should be observing. The Razorback's nose, which was really more of a snout with nostrils that could probably smell fear from 3 buildings away, came within inches of Marcus. It sniffed. Once. Twice. A rumbling sound came from its chest, the kind of sound that usually preceded violence. Marcus reached out and booped it on the nose. He booped it. On the nose. Did he just... Torque could not even finish the sentence. The Razorback jerked back, eyes wide with what I could only describe as shock. It shook its massive head, then looked at the human again with an expression that I swear conveyed something like, Did you seriously just do that? Yeah, I did, Marcus said, as if reading the creature's mind. What are you going to do about it? You want to eat me? Go ahead. But you should know I had the spicy noodles from the cafeteria for lunch, so good luck with your digestion. This was insane. This was beyond insane. This was watching someone juggle live plasma grenades while riding a unicycle on a tightrope. The Razorback sat down. Just sat. Like a domesticated pet that had been given a command it didn't understand but decided to obey anyway. Marcus nodded. Good boy. Or girl. I honestly cannot tell. Do you guys even have genders in the traditional sense? The xenobiology textbook was kind of vague on that. He went back to his studying. I looked at Torque. Torque looked at me. We both looked back at the classroom where a human was now peacefully studying, while a killing machine from a hell planet watched him with what could only be described as bewildered acceptance. I need to file a report about this, I said weakly. What are you going to say? Torque asked. Excellent question. How exactly does one document human exchange student befriended school terror through sheer audacity and a complete lack of survival instinct? The Razorback yawned, displaying its entire arsenal of teeth. Then it laid its head down on the desk next to Marcus, who absently reached over and scratched behind what I assumed was its ear. That is a good monster, the human murmured. You just wanted some attention, did not you? Everyone's always screaming and running away. That has got to be lonely. And that is when I realized something that made my administrative soul deeply uncomfortable. Humans were not going to change to fit into our nice, orderly, predictable galaxy. The galaxy was going to have to adapt to them. I turned away from the window. Get Professor Hylix on comms. Tell him his demonstration subject has been domesticated. Sir? And someone bring that human a sandwich or something. If he is going to revolutionize interspecies relations through the power of not caring, he should at least not do it on an empty stomach. As I walked back toward my office, I could hear Torque still sputtering questions behind me, but I was already mentally drafting new safety protocols. Rule 847. If a human is involved, all previous assumptions about predator-prey dynamics are void. It was going to be a very long semester. 3 hours later, I was standing in front of the Academy Council, trying to explain why I had not immediately evacuated a human student from an active predator situation. 5 representatives from the most prominent species in our sector sat in their elevated seats, looking down at me with varying expressions of confusion, horror, and what I suspected was suppressed amusement. Council Prime Therax, a Valorian with silver scales and entirely too much authority, tapped his claws on the podium. Let me understand this correctly. Vice Administrator Quask, you allowed a Category 4 species member to remain in close proximity with an unrestricted Krythian Razorback for over 3 hours? Technically, yes. But in my defense, the situation was stable, and any intervention might have escalated things. Stable? Councillor Breen, a floating gas entity from the Nephorus system, pulsed an angry shade of orange. There is nothing stable about a Razorback loose in an educational facility. With respect, Councillor, the Razorback was not loose. It was sitting, calmly, while the humans studied. That is impossible, said Councillor Urix, her crystalline form chiming with disbelief. Razorbacks do not sit calmly. They hunt. They kill. They establish dominance through violence. I pulled up the security footage on the main display. Perhaps you should see for yourselves. The recording played. Marcus at his desk. The Razorback approaching. The boop. The subsequent sitting. And then, most damning of all, the part where Marcus started explaining quantum entanglement to the creature while using his hands to gesture, and the Razorback followed his movements like it was genuinely interested. Silence fell over the council chamber. He is lecturing it, Therax said flatly. The human is giving an academic lecture to a predator. That appears to be accurate, yes. Councillor Breen turned a shade of purple I had never seen before. This is a disaster. Do you have any idea what the liability implications are? What if the creature had attacked? What if other students see this and think they can approach dangerous animals? What if humans start thinking all of our wildlife is available for their bizarre bonding rituals? That last one was actually a legitimate concern. I had read the reports from Earth about how humans domesticated wolves into dogs, how they convinced cats to tolerate their presence in exchange for food, how they had even taught some birds to talk. Given enough time and snacks, humans would probably try to befriend a black hole. The creature did not attack, I said carefully. In fact, after approximately 90 minutes, it fell asleep. Marcus finished his studying, covered it with his jacket so it would not get cold, and calmly walked out. The containment team moved in after he left and returned the Razorback to its holding pen without incident. It has been docile ever since. Docile, Urix repeated. A Krythian Razorback. Docile. It has not eaten in 8 hours and refuses to acknowledge Professor Hylix. It keeps looking toward the door like it is waiting for something. Or someone. Therax rubbed his temples in a gesture that translated across species as pure exhaustion. You are telling me this apex predator has imprinted on the human student. That would be my assessment, yes. Unacceptable. We need to send the human home immediately. This is too much of a risk to our institution's reputation. I had been expecting this. I pulled up another file. Before we make that decision, Council, perhaps you should review Marcus Dane's academic records. The data scrolled across their displays. Perfect marks in every class. Advanced understanding of subjects that most species took decades to master. Contributions to 3 ongoing research projects. Glowing recommendations from every professor who had worked with him. He is also, I added, the first human to ever attend this academy. Sending him home because he successfully de-escalated a dangerous situation seems counterproductive. Successfully de-escalated? Breen's gases swirled angrily. He booped it on the nose. And it worked. More silence. I could see them processing this, trying to fit it into their understanding of how the universe operated. The problem was that humans kept breaking those rules simply by existing. Counselor Lymara, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. She was from a species known for their wisdom and long lifespans. Perhaps we are looking at this wrong. The human did not show fear because humans evolved alongside creatures just as dangerous. What we see as suicidal bravery is simply their baseline existence. They don't panic because panic was bred out of them millennia ago. Those who panicked got eaten. Those who stayed calm survived. That's terrifying, Yurik said. Yes, Lymara agreed. But also useful. What if instead of fearing this trait, we studied it, learned from it? The galactic community has much to gain from understanding how humans interact with dangerous fauna. Therax did not look convinced. And what do you suggest we do about the Razorback situation? Before I could answer, my communicator buzzed. Torque's voice came through, high-pitched with stress. Sir, you need to get down to the biology lab. Now. I excused myself from the council chamber and ran. Again, I was getting entirely too much exercise today. The biology lab was in controlled chaos when I arrived. Students clustered around the observation windows, chattering in dozens of languages. Professor Hylix, a tall insectoid academic with compound eyes that looked perpetually worried, was wringing his four hands together. What now? I demanded. Hylix pointed toward the Razorback's enclosure. The human came back. He just walked in and said he wanted to check on his friend. His friend! I tried to stop him, but he was already inside before I could activate the barriers. I looked through the reinforced glass. Marcus was sitting cross-legged on the floor of the enclosure. The Razorback had its massive head in the human's lap, making a sound that I could only describe as purring. Purring. A Krythian Razorback was purring like an earth cat. Marcus was scratching behind its bony crest, talking in a low voice. Yeah, I know, buddy. They locked you up again. That sucks. But you cannot just go wandering around eating people. It makes the administrators nervous. The Razorback made a soft chirping sound. I know. You were not going to eat anyone. You just wanted to explore. But they don't know that. They just see big, scary predator. Marcus smiled. Tell you what, I will talk to them. Maybe we can arrange visitation hours or something. Would you like that? The creature's tail wagged. Actually wagged. I am losing my mind, Professor Hylix whispered. This is not scientifically possible. Razorbacks do not wag. They do not purr. They certainly do not form emotional attachments to prey species. Humans are not prey, I said, watching Marcus continue his bonding session. That is what we keep getting wrong. They are not prey. They are not predators. They are something else entirely. They are survivors who decided that surviving alone was boring. So they started making friends with everything they encountered. A student nearby, a small fuzzy creature from Plixus Minor, spoke up. Is it true? What they say about humans? That on their planet they kept predators in their homes? Fed them? Loved them? Yes, I confirmed. They called them pets. Dogs, cats, birds, reptiles, even some fish species. They took animals that should have been competitors or threats and turned them into family. But why? I watched Marcus laugh as the Razorback tried to fit its entire body into his lap, which was physically impossible, but the creature was trying anyway. Because they get lonely. Because they saw something wild and dangerous and thought it deserved kindness. Because humans are, at their core, absolutely insane in the most wonderful way possible. My communicator buzzed again. Therax's voice, resigned and tired. Quask. The council has made a decision. The human stays. But he is now responsible for the Razorback's care and behavioral training. If he wants to befriend death incarnate, he can deal with the consequences. Understood, Council Prime. And Quask? Update the safety protocols. If humans can domesticate a Razorback in 3 hours, we need to prepare for what they might do with the rest of our fauna. I signed off and approached the enclosure door. Marcus looked up, still petting the now sleepy predator. Am I in trouble? He asked. Surprisingly, no. The council has decided that since you seem to have accidentally adopted a killing machine, you are now in charge of it. Marcus's face lit up. Really? I can keep him? It is a her, according to Professor Hylix. And yes, apparently you can keep her. conditional on proper training, safety measures, and regular behavioral assessments. This is amazing. Did you hear that, girl? You are coming home with me. He scratched under her chin. I'm going to call you Petra, after the ancient city on Earth, because you are solid as a rock. Petra the Razorback made a happy, rumbling sound. I made a note on my datapad. For the record, this is the strangest day of my administrative career. You know, Marcus said thoughtfully. Back home, we have this saying, dogs were wolves once. They were wild and dangerous, and humans looked at them and saw potential for friendship. Maybe that is what the galaxy needs. Someone willing to see potential instead of danger. He was not wrong. Infuriating, but not wrong. As I walked back to file what would undoubtedly be the most bizarre incident report in Academy history, I passed groups of students whispering excitedly about the human who tamed a razorback, with nothing but audacity and kindness. Tomorrow, classes would resume. Marcus would attend lectures with Petra waiting outside, probably becoming a campus mascot. Professor Hylix would have to completely rewrite his understanding of predator behavior, and I would spend the foreseeable future explaining to concerned species representatives that, yes, humans are like this, and no, we cannot stop them. But watching Marcus walk past with Petra following him like an oversized puppy, her tail wagging and students cautiously reaching out to pet her, I realized something important. Maybe we should not try to stop them. Maybe the galaxy needed a species crazy enough to look at monsters and see friends. Someone had to remind us all that the universe was not just about survival. Sometimes it was about connection, even if that connection involved booping a predator on the nose and giving it a name. I opened my incident report and began typing. On this date, human exchange student Marcus Udent. Dane successfully domesticated a Krythian Razorback through unprecedented methods. Recommend establishing new guidelines for human-fauna interactions. Also recommend increasing my hazard pay. Behind me, I heard laughter. Students from a dozen species gathered around Marcus and Petra, taking pictures and asking questions, building bridges across the gaps between their worlds, all because one human refused to run when everyone else did. The galaxy was about to get very interesting, and I needed a vacation.